All right, at the start of this preview, I will remind people watching this that I'm going to the Canucks game tonight, which means the review is going to be a little later than normal going up. And yeah, we got 10 games tonight, so it's going to be some fun boards to set up when I get home. We got 4 games that are starting at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. So let's go ahead and jump in first with the Boston Bruins at home against the New York Islanders, which starts at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern, along with these ones, all at the same time. 22-8-2 is the New York Islanders record, and they've had a pretty good run. So their last game, they very well just be a one-off. They lost 8-3 against the Nashville Predators in their most recent outing. Before that, they beat Buffalo Sabres 3-2. They beat Florida 3-1. They beat Tampa Bay 5-1. Prior to that, they lost at Dallas 3-1. On the Boston side of things, they're 21-7-7 over their last 5. They lost at home against LA 4-3. They won at Florida 4-2. They lost at Tampa 3-2. They lost at Washington 3-2. And prior to that, they lost at Ottawa 5-2. People say I'm being too hard on Boston. They lost 4 out of 5, and 2 of them were against the Kings and the Senators. So, if anything, I look at that record and I go, maybe I'm being too nice to Boston by having them currently sitting outside the top row on the power rankings. It's been a rough last few weeks for Boston. Now scoring leaders. On the Islanders side, Barzal, 13 goals. Nelson has 12 goals. Beauvillier has 10. Lee has 9. Bailey and Brassard both have 8 goals. So this is that depth. On the points side, Barzal, 27 points, leads the team. Nelson, 26. Beauvillier, 22. Brassard and Lee both have 18. On the Boston side of things, Pastrnak, 28 goals, currently in 35 games. So any talk about 50 and 50 is gone. That's done. Marchand, 18 goals. Bergeron, 11. DeBrusk has 8. And Krejci has 7. On the points front, Marchand, 51 points. Pastrnak, 49. Bergeron, 28. Krejci, 23. And Krug, 23. And part of the reason why Boston started to struggle is if you shut down Marchand and Pastrnak, you have a pretty good chance of beating them. The other side, of course, is that some of their numbers have just started to kind of fall off. But over their last 5 games, see, that's 13 goals in their last 5 games. So that is well below where they were to start the season. And we'll see whether or not they can turn it around tonight against the Islanders. And I had thought about wearing a jersey from that game, but no. All right, moving along. Detroit or Dallas. Dallas is in against Tampa, not Detroit. Detroit's not playing tonight. Don't worry, Red Wing fans. You're not up tonight. Dallas is in against Tampa, and this should be a lot of fun. This should be a really good game. 19-12-4 Dallas. And Dallas is looking to get back on track. Their last 5 games have been okay, but they've only got 12 goals in their last 5 games. Their most recent game was a loss 2-1 at home against Edmonton. Prior to that, they won at Nashville 4-1. Before that, they lost at home against Vegas 3-2. They beat the New Jersey Devils 2-0. They beat the Islanders 3-1. So it's been kind of an up and down time for Dallas. Now on the Tampa Bay side of things, they're 17-12-3 over their last 5. At home against Ottawa, they won 4-3. Versus the Washington Capitals, they lost 5-2. Versus Boston, they won 3-2. At Florida, they won 2-1. And at home against the Islanders, they lost 5-1. It has been a very inconsistent time for the Ottawa Senators, and we'll see whether or not they can get that consistency going against Dallas, because it's really been hard to peg down how they're going to do in any given game. Now, goals leaders for Dallas, Hintz with 12, Radulov has 9, and then there's 5 players tied with 7, including a couple who've been kind of disappointing so far this year. On the points front, Sagan, 26, Radulov, 22, Heiskanen, 21, Ben has 16. Remember, they've played 35 games. It's a strange total for Jamie Benn. Pavelski, 15, and Hintz with 15. On the Tampa Bay side of things, Stamkos and Point both have 13 goals. Kucherov has 11. Palat and Killorn both have 9. On the point side of things, Kucherov has 35. Stamkos has 30. Hedman has 28. Killorn 26, and Braden Point has 25. So we'll likely see Vasilevsky. We'll likely see Bishop, I would think, which means we should have a pretty exciting, I would think, low-scoring game because Dallas has trouble scoring, but they don't have much trouble preventing teams from scoring. As you can see here, they've only allowed 7 goals over their last 5 games, so it's quite possible we could have a really low-scoring game in between Tampa and Dallas. But, moving along, Buffalo in against the Philadelphia Flyers. This should be fascinating because Eichel has a 17-game point streak going, and Philadelphia is coming off of a pretty big win for them. So, over their last 5 games, and going over their record in general, the Buffalo Sabres are 16, 12, and 7, and they felt like they were coming out of it. They lost at Toronto 5-3 in their most recent game. We'll see whether or not they can stop this from becoming a trend. Prior to that, they lost at New York, the Islanders, that is, 3-2. They beat Nashville 4-3. They beat St. Louis 5-2, and at Edmonton they won 3-2. So there was some good vibes going into the Islander game, and coming out of the Toronto game now. It's kind of the Jack Eichel show, and you're looking for other guys to pick the team up. Now on the Flyers front, 18, 11, and 5 is their overall record. Versus Anaheim, they won 4-1. That's after they lost at Winnipeg 7-3. They lost at Minnesota 4-1. At Colorado, they lost 3-1. But before that, at home, they beat Ottawa 4-3. So they're 2-3 in their last 5. These 3 games on the road, that was a tough road trip for them emotionally, likely physically as well. And we'll see if they can continue this bounce back with a game at home against the Buffalo Sabres. Should be a very interesting one. Carter Hart's been confirmed. So I have goaltenders on the boards this morning for goaltenders have been confirmed, but since I'm recording this at 8 o'clock, about 8:15 my time, the number of goalies that have already been confirmed for games is low. Now, scoring leaders, Eichel leads the team in goals. No surprise he leads the Sabres there with 24. Olofsson 14, Reinhart 12, Skinner with 11, and there's 3 players with 5. Points leaders, Eichel with 50. Yeah. Olofsson 32, Reinhart 28, Dahlin 20, and Skinner with 18. On the Philadelphia front, Giroux, Konechny, and Lindblom all have 11. Giroux, I think his game will pick up. It's going to. I really believe that. He is capable of playing at a much higher level offensively than he's shown so far this season. Couturier has 9 goals. Hayes and Van Riemsdyk both have 8. On the points front, Konechny has 29. Couturier 26. Giroux 24. Voracek 23. And Provorov has 21 to round things out for the Philadelphia Flyers. So again, this should be an interesting one. I think for the Flyers, I think the whole thing with Lindblom, I think now is going to be kind of set aside. I would think they've had time to emotionally process this, and now it's just, all right, we're going to go out there and win for our currently not on the roster teammate that we're going to have back in October. That's the way it's likely to be framed from here. And again, I'm kind of pulling for him. Next up, LA. So the Kings in against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Again, these all have the same start time. LA is becoming relevant again. I didn't think they could do it. They have 15, 18, and 3, and it's been this road trip. This road trip that we kind of looked at the start of it and said, well, if they're going to get back into it, they're going to have to win a lot on the road. Now, they weren't supposed to. They hadn't done it at all before this road trip, but they won at Boston 4-3. Prior to that, they won at Detroit 4-2. They lost at Pittsburgh, but 5-4 in a shootout. They won at Anaheim 2-1, and at home against the Rangers, they won 3-1. So they're 4-0-1 in their last 5 games. The Kings are very quietly putting together a pretty good run. On the Columbus side, they're 14, 14, and 6. At Detroit, they won 5-3. Versus the Washington Capitals, they won 3-0. Prior to that, at Ottawa, they lost 4-3. At Pittsburgh, they lost 1-0. That was a heartbreaker of a game. And prior to that, they beat the Washington Capitals 5-2. So overall, they've won 3 out of 5. And Tortorella should be mildly happy about the way things have been going lately. That's about the most you can ask for from Tortorella in any given interview, is that he's mildly happy with his team. That means it's jubilant on our scale, but it's mildly happy for him. Goals leaders for the Kings, Kopitar with 14, of course. He's their leader. Carter with 10, Toffoli with 9, Brown with 7, Amadio and Doughty both have 6. Points leaders, Kopitar with 32, Doughty with 23, Toffoli with 21, Brown with 18, Carter and Iafallo both have 16 points. On the Columbus side, Nyquist with 23, Dubois with 22, Atkinson 21, Bjorkstrand has 20, and Jones with 19. Korpisalo has been confirmed as the starter for Columbus because they need wins, so Korpisalo's playing a lot of games because Merzlikins doesn't get wins. And Korpisalo could play 60, 65 games this year. In a time where we're seeing most goaltenders getting drawn back to 50, 55. He may be one of those exceptions in the league where he just plays a ton of games. So there you go. I'm going to now change boards. And on to board number 2 with the Nashville Predators in against the Ottawa Senators. Senators, again, when I say this, don't take them lightly. That being said, they have lost 3 out of 5, so it's not like they're impenetrable or invulnerable here. They're a team that if you come out to play, you're probably going to beat them. But if you take any shifts off or figure this is going to be easy, they can make you pay for that. And for Nashville, they shouldn't be in that mind frame yet. Nashville right now is sitting outside the playoff spot that they covet. So at 16, 12, and 5, there should be plenty of motivation for them to go in and defeat the Ottawa Senators, especially coming off of that 8-3 win against the New York Islanders. And prior to that, they won 5-2 at the New York Rangers. So that's 13 goals in 2 games. That's excellent because their offense had been an issue. Prior to that, they had lost at home against Dallas 4-3. They won it or lost at Buffalo 4-3, 4-1 at Dallas, 4-3 against the Buffalo Sabres, and prior to that, they beat the San Jose Sharks 3-1. I'll figure it out. On the Ottawa front, they're 14, 18, and 3. They lost at Tampa Bay 4-3. They lost at Florida 6-1. At home against Columbus, they won 4-3. At Montreal, they lost 3-2, and versus Boston, they won 5-2. Which as a Bruins fan is still kind of irritating because kind of should have seen that coming. Now, goals leaders for the Nashville Predators, Bonino with 13, Forsberg has 12, Järnkrok also has 12, Josi with 10, and Duchesne with 8. On the points front, Josi leads them there with 30, Ellis has 25, Järnkrok also has 25, Forsberg 24, and Bonino with 22. On the goals front, Duclair 19. For the Ottawa Senators, 19. Is that the highest number on the board? Almost, yeah. And he's up there with some heady names here. Pajot 16, Kachuk 11, Ennis 8, Nemesnikov 7. It almost doesn't matter if Duclair's on a hot streak or what it is. Somebody's going to pay for him next year. Points leader, Duclair, 26. Pajot has 24. Connor Brown, 21. Shabbat also has 21. Tierney, 19. Kachuk, 19. And Nilsson is listed as the likely starter for the Ottawa Senators. I would think he is very, very likely to be the starter. I'd be very surprised if they went with somebody else because he's been the best goaltender of the 3 that they've employed so far this year. Although Hogberg, not too bad. Not too bad at all. All right, moving along. Chicago in against the Winnipeg Jets. This one starts at 5 o'clock my time, 8 o'clock Eastern. So you got 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then these ones are at 6. So if you're trying to follow everything, yeah, good luck. Chicago's 13, 16, and 6. I'm going to the Canucks game, so I'm not even going to try to follow everything tonight for the most part. I'll keep track of the scores and whatnot, but I'm not going to be doing all the notes and stuff. Those come back tomorrow night. 13, 16, and 6 for the Chicago Blackhawks, and they've been having trouble with Colorado lately for the most part. They're coming off their latest loss against Colorado. They lost 4-1 at home yesterday. Versus Minnesota prior to that, they won 5-3. At St. Louis, they lost 4-3. At Arizona, they lost 5-1. At Vegas, they lost 5-1. It's been a disastrous run for them. Now, Winnipeg, they're 20, 12, and 2. They're coming off that 6-3 loss at home against Carolina. And it feels like homestands hurt Winnipeg more than some of the other teams that are in the playoffs. We'll see if that continues tonight. Before that, at home against Philly, they won 7-3. At Detroit, they lost 5-2. Versus Detroit, they won 5-1. And versus Anaheim, they won 3-2. So they've won 3 out of 5. We'll see if it becomes 3 out of 6 or 4 out of 6 tonight. Got to be ready for Chicago. I had thought about wearing a Winnipeg jersey, but I thought, it's back-to-backs again. I don't know, maybe Chicago's due for one. Speaking of which, Kane, 18 goals so far this year, leads Chicago. Saad has 11. DeBrincat and Kubalik both have 8. Taves and Strome both have 7. Points front. Kane with 40, DeBrincat with 25, Taves with 24, Strome with 23, and Brandon Saad's on the board with 19. Now, on the Winnipeg side of things, Scheifele leads them in goals with 16. He's been on a great run lately. Connor with 14, Ehlers with 14 as well, Laine with 11, and Wheeler with 9. And when I talked about breakout players last week, and I talked about Nick Ehlers, there are a lot of people who just probably skipped to the end. And I said in that video, I'm not saying Ehlers is going to have a career year for points and goals, but man, everything else he's doing seems to be on a whole other level this year, and he's really picked up his overall game. So that's why I had him as a breakout guy. But anyways, points leaders, Scheifele with 36, Laine with 32, Connor with 31, Wheeler with 28, and Ehlers with 26. And again, if you don't watch Winnipeg games or you haven't watched them, I would highly recommend watching them and isolate on Nick Ehlers when you can, because he's played pretty darn well. Okay, moving along. Carolina in against the Colorado Avalanche. And Carolina 21, 11, and 12 now. And they've got to be feeling pretty good, but don't feel too good because this is Colorado we're talking about. Now, their last game, of course, at Winnipeg. They won 6-3. Prior to that, they beat Calgary 4-0. They lost that controversial game at Vancouver 1-0. At Edmonton, they won 6-2, and versus Minnesota, they won 6-3 at Edmonton, 6-2 versus Minnesota. So, in the Chicago Blackhawks, they're getting a team that is, or the Colorado Avalanche, they're getting a team that's definitely a contender. They're 22-9-3, coming off of a win against Chicago 4-1, which followed a loss to St. Louis 5-2, and that was after they beat New Jersey 3-1. They beat Philadelphia 3-1. And against Calgary, they lost 5-4. So it's been a 3 wins out of 5 kind of run for them. And yeah, again, I don't anticipate Carolina taking them light on any level. I would figure Grubauer tonight because Francouz played last night, and Mrazek I would think is highly likely for Carolina. Doesn't really matter right now. The Reimer's playing pretty well, so if they go with Reimer, I really couldn't blame them. Your goals leaders. Aho leads the Carolina Hurricanes with 20. Svechnikov has 14, but of course, if we were going by beautiful goals, Svechnikov would have 14, and Aho would probably have like 13 or 12. Hamilton with 12, Haula with 8, and Teravainen with 7. Points leaders, Svechnikov has 35, Hamilton 34, Teravainen 34, Aho 33, and Ryan Dzingel with 19. On the Colorado side of things, I had 3 different team names in there. I'm like, that's the one, Colorado. McKinnon, goals leader with 21. Burakovsky, 13. Donskoy also has 13. Kadri with 11. And Rantanen with 10. Out of their 5 goal leaders, 3 of them are players that were picked up in the offseason by Joe Sakic. Now, I understand that Rantanen hasn't played enough to get past 5th so far. He'll get there once he's played enough games, and Landeskog isn't on there because of injury as well, but it is worthy of note. Points leaders, McKinnon with 52, Makar with 28, Donskoy 27, Burakovsky 24, and Rantanen also with 24 for the Colorado Avalanche. Pretty interesting bunch, these Colorado Avalanche. Doesn't seem to matter who gets hurt, doesn't seem to matter what's going on. They still find ways to win. And that, I think the race between them and St. Louis could just be every night all year we're looking at where that race is. All right, last one on this board before we move on to the last one. Montreal in against Calgary. This one starts at 6 o'clock Pacific, and I'm wearing the Calgary CCM with the 1989 patch on it because the Calgary Flames are wearing their retro whites tonight at home against Montreal, who will sport their red jerseys. This will be a throwback to the 1989 Stanley Cup Final, and I like that. That's cool. That being said, and it is an argument in favor of A, going back to whites for home teams, and B, white third jerseys. More white third jerseys, please. Now, Montreal's 16-12-8. 16-12-6. Sorry. Not 8. I don't know where the 8 came from. I think it's from over there. 16-12-6. And is Montreal turning it around? Probably get a different opinion from different Montreal fans, and probably differing Montreal fans because they'll differ with one another. But against Vancouver, they looked pretty good and they won 3-1. Now versus Detroit, they lost 2-1 and they didn't look great. But prior to that, they beat Ottawa 3-1. They beat Pittsburgh 4-1 and they beat the Rangers 2-1. So things are going pretty darn well. When you allow 7 goals in your last 5 games, that's some pretty good goaltending you're getting there. Now on the Calgary front, they're 18-14-4, and it feels like they're maybe getting back into some old habits. Pittsburgh, they lost 4-1 against the Penguins. Against Carolina, they lost 4-0. So they're coming off of 2 games where they lost by a combined score of 8-1. I think that's too much. I think they're due for a bounce back. That's the reason I'm wearing a Calgary jersey. I'm not wearing this to the game tonight. Versus Toronto, 4-2. At Arizona, they won 5-2. At Colorado, they won 5-4. So it's still 3 wins out of their last 5, but they've lost their last 2. So it depends how you look at it. There's that whole glass half empty, glass half full thing with the Flames right now. Scoring leaders for Montreal, Gallagher 14, Tatar with 13. Weber and Armia both have 11. Drouin and Danault both have 7. On the points front, Tatar with 30, Weber with 28, Gallagher 27, Danault 26, and Domi with 22. Now, Calgary, their leading goal scorer. There were 2 different things I wanted to say there, and I tried to say them both at the same time. Good job. I don't think my mouth had completely woke up. Either that or my brain communicating with my mouth hadn't completely woke up by the time I started this. I'm going to power through it. Lindholm's their leading goal scorer with 14. Tkachuk with 12. Monahan and Gaudreau with 10. And Mangiapane with 6. So there's some scoring depth issues with Calgary for sure. They need more from their depth guys and probably could use a few more from Gaudreau while they're at it, and he seems to be getting things going. Points leaders, Monahan with 28, Tkachuk with 27, Gaudreau with 27, Lindholm 23, and then Giordano and Derek Ryan are tied with 17. That being said, I do need to change boards. All right, nice quick board here. Only 2 games left. We have Minnesota in against Arizona, which should be an interesting one. Because the Minnesota Wild, who were left for dead at the end of October, and I mean, I was like, all right, they're done, had this big jump back up the standings, and now things are kind of in flux. And we have also, of course, Vegas in against Vancouver. Now, this is the Taylor Hall show tonight. Just to let you guys know, this is going to be the Taylor Hall show. 16-14-5 is the record for the Minnesota Wild. Now, at Vegas, they lost 3-2. At Chicago, they lost 5-3. So far, this road trip has been an offer. Prior to that, they beat Philadelphia 4-1. They beat Edmonton 6-5. They lost at home against Anaheim 3-2. So they won 2 of their last 5. Or they've been 0-2 on the road. So Arizona's 20-12-4. At San Jose, they won 3-2, where Hall was basically Gretzky. Sure. Versus New Jersey, they lost 2-1, ironically without Taylor Hall playing in that game. Versus Chicago, they won 5-2. Versus Calgary, they lost 5-2. And at Chicago, they won 4-3. So, Arizona has won 3 of its last 5. They've won and lost, and then they won their last game, which means they're supposed to lose tonight against Minnesota, right? That's how that works, right? No, that's not how hockey works. It's not 50-50 booking. It's not pro wrestling. So, Dubnyk's listed as likely for the Minnesota Wild. I would think he could very well make his return tonight. Does that favor Dubnyk? Does that hurt Minnesota's chances? We'll see. Now, goals leaders for Minnesota, Parise with 14. Stahl and Zucker have 12 each. Zuccarello and Fiala have 8 apiece. Points leaders, Stahl with 27. Zucker with 24. Suter with 23. Fiala and Parise both have 20. On the Arizona side of things, Garland with 12 goals. Soderberg with 10. Dvorak with 8. And then there's 4. Count them. 4 players with 7 goals each. So again, it's that scoring depth issue that Arizona doesn't really have right now. And not included in that 4 with 7 is Mr. Taylor Hall. Points leaders, Schmaltz 24, Keller 24, Dvorak 21, Soderberg 20, Hall 19, Kessel 19. Hall's played 1 game so far with the Coyotes. He has 1 assist. We'll see if he gets his first goal as a member of the Coyotes against Minnesota and probably Devin Dubnyk. So there you go. This may very well be a game that gets a lot more attention now than it might have a week ago. because Taylor Hall's with Arizona, which means Stanley Cup. Sure, why not? We're in that crazy town where people are like, oh, that makes them potentially favorites for stuff. No, not yet. Let's not hand it to them yet. Anyways, Vegas is in against Vancouver, and speaking of not handing anything to anybody, a good October is completely forgotten for the Vancouver Canucks. Whereas for Vegas, they've forgotten all about their bad November. Vegas is 19-13-5 currently, and over their last 5 games, they won at home versus Minnesota 3-2. They whooped Vancouver 6-3 when they played them on Sunday. Now they're playing them again tonight. At Dallas, they won 3-2. At St. Louis, they lost 4-2. And versus Chicago, they won 5-1. So they've won 4 of their last 5 games. They look pretty good. It'll be a nice looking game though. Vancouver in their home blues and Vegas in their whites. I do like the whites in Vegas. And that's a debate I guess we can have another time, is do we like the white jerseys for teams or the various colors that the teams have? Which ones do we like better? Like for Vancouver, I would probably take the blue one over the white one. I don't know, maybe. But for Vegas, their road jerseys are fantastic. So goals leaders for Vegas, Pacioretty with 15, Smith with 13, Stone with 12, Carlson and Marchessault each have 10. Points leaders, Pacioretty with 35, Stone with 32, Carlson 28, Smith with 26, and Marchessault with 24 points. Goals leaders, Pettersson 14, Miller 13 so far for Vancouver, Besser with 12, Virtanen and Horvat with 9. Points, Pettersson 35, Besser 32, Miller 31, Horvat 26, and Hughes also has 26. And I'm just going to point out, just to make a point here, for Vegas fans, whoever thought, maybe we could go to Vancouver. Hey, I got lower bowl tickets for tonight's game for well under $100 each. And that's Canadian, so seeing the Canadian dollar trades at about $76 American, or 76 cents, $76 American. What's wrong with my brain today? Canadian dollar, $76 American. Holy crap. So, yeah, 76 cents American last time I looked. So, with exchange, you'd be paying about $50 a ticket. Maybe less. I don't know. I don't remember the exact value that I paid for each ticket, but it wasn't anywhere near what I would have to pay to watch this exact same game in Vegas. Especially for lower bowl. Forget that. That and the fact there's actual tickets. So, it's just worthy of note. I figured I'd throw that out there. And this should be a really interesting game tonight. I figure Vegas probably comes in and whoops them. Vancouver, after, they lost against Montreal 3-1 to get to that 16-15-4 record after losing 6-3 against Vegas, which followed a 4-2 loss against San Jose. They beat Carolina 1-0, which Canes fans will tell you they didn't deserve. And then against Toronto at home, they lost 4-1. So they've scored 8 goals in their last 5 games. Their goal horn isn't getting used very much right now at Rogers. So, yeah, we'll see how things go tonight. Let me know your winners in the comment section below. And thank you guys so much for watching. And, hey, hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Picked up a lot of subscribers over the last, I'll say, 4 days. Apparently there's some kind of a trade that happened, which may have attracted a lot of attention and subscribers. So, we'll see whether or not that kind of thing happens again, especially as we get into the new year and we start looking and going, oh, trade deadline's not that far off. So, stick around. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.